Em yêu, anh có điều muốn nói với em. Anh rất yêu em.
Anh.
Anh muốn ở bên em mãi mãi. Em đồng ý làm vợ anh nhé.
Em đồng ý, em yêu anh.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Toan takes her to the familiar drink spot where they've sat and talked together many times before. At this moment, Diem still has no idea that Toan has already prepared some special surprises for her. From beauty products and clothes, to a cute pair of shoes, all just to make her smile on this special day. So how will Diem react when she finds out? And which moment during their meeting will make them both feel truly emotional? Watch until the end of the video to see what happens. And if you enjoy these simple yet heartfelt stories of Toan and Diem, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to follow the next episodes. Diem left the house early in the morning to go to the market and sell vegetables, just like she does every day. The door closed behind her, leaving the small house noticeably quieter. The morning sunlight slipped through the window, gently lighting up the wooden table in the middle of the room. Toan sat alone in his usual chair, resting his chin on his hand, as if he had been thinking about something for a long time. Today was a special day. When he glanced up at the calendar hanging on the wall, his eyes stopped at the bright red number March 8th. Toan smiled softly. Diem immediately came to mind. Ever since she became pregnant, she had been working so hard. Even though she had to go to the market early every morning to sell vegetables, she still did her best to take care of their small home. Not once had she complained or asked for anything. That was exactly what made Toan feel both grateful and deeply touched. He looked around the room. Everything was still as simple as always. The wooden table he had recently built a few sets of baby clothes, neatly folded in the corner of the cabinet, and the small cradle he was preparing for the baby who would be arriving soon. Then a thought suddenly crossed his mind. Today, he wanted to do something special for Diem. Nothing too big, just something small that would surprise her and make her happy. Toan began thinking about going to the town market to buy a little gift. Maybe a nice outfit she had never bought for herself before. Or a few beauty products so she could take better care of herself. The more he thought about it, the more excited he felt. He stood up, looked around the room one more time, and nodded quietly as if he had made up his mind. Today, when Diem comes home from the market, she probably won't expect that a small surprise is waiting for her inside this house. Toan stopped his motorbike in front of a small cosmetic shop located right on the corner of the town market. The sign in front of the store was covered with images of skincare products, which made him hesitate for a few seconds. Normally, he rarely stepped into places like this, but today was different. Today was March 8th, and he wanted to prepare a meaningful gift for Diem. He stepped inside. The shop was bright, with neatly arranged shelves filled with all kinds of small, colorful cosmetic bottles and boxes. A sales assistant quickly walked over, greeted him with a smile, and gently asked what he was looking for. At first, Toan felt a little awkward. He slowly explained that he wanted to buy some skincare products as a gift for his wife. After hearing that, the employee happily began recommending gentle products suitable for women, especially items that were safe and mild. Toan listened carefully to every suggestion. His eyes occasionally paused on moisturizing creams, small bottles of serum, and soft-colored lipsticks. In his mind, he kept imagining Diem's face when she received the gift. After thinking for a while, Toan began choosing each item carefully. A gentle moisturizing cream, a light pink lipstick, and a small bottle of moisturizer. He picked them all with the thought that Diem would like them. The employee helped wrap everything in a cute gift bag. When Toan held the bag in his hands, he smiled softly. He knew the gift might not be very expensive, but to him, it was a sincere gesture of care for the woman who had always been by his side. Leaving the cosmetics shop with the small gift bag in his hand, Toan continued walking along the town street. In his mind, he was still thinking about whether there was another gift that could surprise Diem even more. As he passed by a shoe store, his eyes suddenly stopped at the display window. Inside, the shoes were neatly arranged in many different styles and colors. Curious, Toan stepped into the store. He slowly looked at each pair, trying to imagine which one would suit Diem the most. After looking around for a while, his eyes settled on a small pair of black ballet flats that looked very elegant. The shoes had a simple but refined design, with a soft round toe and a small cute bow on the front. Toan picked them up and nodded slightly. He immediately imagined Diem wearing these shoes when going to the market or walking around town. Without thinking too long, he decided to buy that pair. The store employee quickly packed them carefully into a small box. When Toan received the box, he felt a little excitement growing inside him. After leaving the store, he stood under the shade of a tree by the road and took out his phone. After a few rings, Diem answered. Toan told her that he was near the market and would come pick her up after she finished selling vegetables. He wanted to take her out for a short walk, just to help her relax after a whole morning of work. On the other end of the call, Diem sounded a little surprised, but she happily agreed. Toan put his phone back in his pocket, looked down at the gift bags in his hands, and smiled softly. He knew that in just a few more minutes, a special afternoon for Diem was about to begin. The market around noon slowly started to quiet down. The stalls nearby had begun packing up after a busy morning of selling. Diem sat behind her vegetable stall, looking down at the basket in front of her. The last bundles of vegetables had just been sold. She let out a soft breath, feeling a bit relieved after a fairly busy morning. Diem began gathering the empty baskets and folding the small cloth that covered her stall. Every now and then, she glanced toward the entrance of the market, as if she were waiting for someone. Just then, from a distance, the familiar figure of Toan appeared. He slowed his motorbike and stopped right in front of her stall. When Diem saw him, her face immediately lit up. Toan got off the bike, looked around the stall, and smiled when he saw that all the vegetables had been sold. He helped her stack the remaining baskets, then gently told her to hop on the bike so they could head back. But instead of driving home like usual, Toan turned onto a small road that led toward the town's lakeside. Sitting behind him, Diem felt a little surprised, but she didn't ask any questions. The bike stopped in front of their familiar drink stand, a place the two of them often visited during their free time. The shop sat under large trees, and the atmosphere was always cool and peaceful. Toan parked the bike and turned to Diem with a soft smile. She stepped off her eyes, showing a bit of curiosity, but also happiness. The two of them walked into the shop and chose their usual table near the window. Diem still didn't know that. This simple meeting was actually part of the surprise Toan had prepared for her on this special day. The small cafe was quiet at that hour. Only a few customers sat scattered under the shade of the large trees outside. The gentle sound of leaves moving in the breeze mixed with the faint clinking of glasses from inside the shop. Toan and Diem sat at their usual table near the window. A soft beam of afternoon sunlight slipped through the branches above and rested lightly on the wooden table between them. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Diem simply looked around the cafe, taking in the familiar atmosphere she had always liked. "This place feels so peaceful today," she said softly. Toan smiled. "Maybe it's because you finally finished selling early," he replied. Diem laughed quietly. That might be true. A waitress soon walked over and placed 2 drinks on their table. One was a cold glass of iced tea for Diem, and the other was a strong iced coffee for Toan. Diem took a small sip from her glass and sighed with relief. "Ah, this feels so good after sitting at the market all morning." Toan watched her quietly. Her hair was slightly messy from the long morning of work, and there were still faint traces of tiredness on her face. But to him, she still looked gentle and beautiful in the simplest way. For a moment he hesitated. Then he slowly reached down beside his chair and picked up the small gift bag he had been hiding. Diem noticed the movement. Her eyes widened slightly. "What's that?" she asked curiously. Toan cleared his throat a little. "Well, today is March 8th, he said. Diem blinked. She had been so busy with work lately that she hadn't even thought about the date, and she asked with a small smile. Toan pushed the gift bag toward her across the table. "So, I bought you a little something." Diem stared at the bag for a moment, clearly surprised. "You bought this for me?" Toan nodded. "Go ahead. Open it." She slowly pulled the bag closer, her movements careful, almost shy. When she looked back up at him again, her eyes were already shining with curiosity. "I didn't expect this at all," she said softly. She gently opened the bag. Inside was a neatly wrapped cosmetic box. Diem looked up again, even more surprised. "Cosmetics?" Toan scratched the back of his head awkwardly. "I asked the shop assistant to help me choose them," he said quickly. "She said they're gentle and good for skin." Diem carefully opened the box. Inside were the skincare products Toan had picked earlier: the moisturizing cream, the soft pink lipstick, and the small serum bottle. For a moment she didn't say anything. Her fingers lightly touched each item as if she couldn't quite believe they were real. "You bought all of this for me?" she asked quietly. Toan nodded again. "You work so hard every day. I thought maybe you should have something nice for yourself too." Diem felt her throat tighten slightly. She had never expected something like this. All this time she had been used to living simply. Most of the money they earned went toward preparing for the baby or paying for daily expenses. She rarely bought anything for herself. But now sitting here in the quiet cafe, looking at the gifts Toan had chosen for her, her heart felt warm in a way she couldn't easily describe. "These are really nice," she said softly. Toan looked relieved. "You like them?" Diem nodded. "Of course I do." She carefully placed the cosmetics back in the box and held the gift bag close to her chest. But just as she was about to say something else, Toan suddenly reached down again beside his chair. Diem tilted her head. "Wait," he said. "There's one more thing." Her eyes widened again. "There's more." Toan placed a small shoebox on the table. Diem looked at it in confusion. "What's inside?" "Open it," Toan said with a grin. Slowly she lifted the lid. Inside was the pair of black ballet flats. The soft afternoon light reflected gently on the smooth surface of the shoes. For a moment Diem froze. "They're for me?" she asked. Toan nodded. "I saw them in a shop and thought they would suit you." She lifted one of the shoes carefully from the box. The soft material, the delicate bow on the front, the elegant shape, everything about them looked beautiful and simple at the same time. "They're so pretty," she whispered. Toan leaned back slightly in his chair, watching her reaction. "You always wear the same old sandals to the market," he said. "I thought maybe you should have something nicer." Diem looked up at him. Her eyes were already slightly wet. "You really didn't have to do this," she said. Toan shook his head. "I wanted to." For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The quiet cafe, the warm afternoon light, and the soft breeze outside seemed to wrap around the moment. Diem gently placed the shoe back in the box. Then she looked at Toan again. "Thank you," she said softly. Toan smiled. "You're welcome." But before he could say anything else, Diem suddenly reached across the table and held his hand. Her fingers were warm. "I'm really happy," she said. Toan felt his chest tighten slightly. "Me too," he replied. Outside the cafe, the afternoon sun slowly moved across the lake nearby, turning the water a soft golden color. Inside the cafe, the two of them sat quietly together. The gifts on the table were simple, but the moment they shared felt far more meaningful than anything expensive. And in that quiet little cafe under the shade of the old trees, March 8th became a memory neither of them would ever forget. "Of course I do." She carefully placed the cosmetics back in the box and held the gift bag close to her chest. But just as she was about to say something else, Toan suddenly reached down again beside his chair. Diem tilted her head. "Wait," he said. "There's one more thing." Her eyes widened again. "There's more." Toan placed a small shoebox on the table. Diem looked at it in confusion. "What's inside?" "Open it," Toan said with a grin. Slowly she lifted the lid. Inside was the pair of black ballet flats. The soft afternoon light reflected gently on the smooth surface of the shoes. For a moment, Diem froze. "They're for me?" she asked. Toan nodded. "I saw them in a shop and thought they would suit you." She lifted one of the shoes carefully from the box. The soft material, the delicate bow on the front, the elegant shape, everything about them looked beautiful and simple at the same time. "They're so pretty," she whispered. Toan leaned back slightly in his chair, watching her reaction. "You always wear the same old sandals to the market," he said. "I thought maybe you should have something nicer." Diem looked up at him. Her eyes were already slightly wet. "You really didn't have to do this," she said. Toan shook his head. "I wanted to." For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The quiet cafe, the warm afternoon light, and the soft breeze outside seemed to wrap around the moment. Diem gently placed the shoe back in the box. Then she looked at Toan again. "Thank you," she said softly. Toan smiled. "You're welcome." But before he could say anything else, Diem suddenly reached across the table and held his hand. Her fingers were warm. "I'm really happy," she said. Toan felt his chest tighten slightly. "Me too," he replied. Outside the cafe, the afternoon sun slowly moved across the lake nearby, turning the water a soft golden color. Inside the cafe, the two of them sat quietly together. The gifts on the table were simple, but the moment they shared felt far more meaningful than anything expensive. And in that quiet little cafe under the shade of the old trees, March 8th became a memory neither of them would ever forget.
vai cho đến khi mọi thứ trở lại như cũ, hoặc thậm chí là tốt đẹp hơn với một nụ cười nhẹ nhàng. Hoài Ca và Hùng cùng nhau bước ra khỏi rừng tiến về phía tương lai với niềm hy vọng mới.